She went down in the kitchen. 1 second, she was at the stove, gently stirring soup while humming the lullabies she used to sing to our daughter. The next, her body dropped to the floor as if her strings had been cut. The crash wasn't just loud, it was final. It cracked something inside me. By the time we reached the hospital, she was unconscious. Machines kept her lungs working, wires wrapped around her arms, a tube lodged in her throat. The mechanical thump of life support drowned out everything else. The doctor spoke softly, vaguely. But it wasn't his words that cut deepest. It was a nurse, hesitant and pale, who pulled me aside. Her voice shook. Her eyes flickered with fear. "Please," she whispered, "bring your daughter now." I didn't ask questions. I simply went. Emma sat in the waiting room, her little fists clenched tight, her fingers icy when I held them, as though her warmth had been left behind in that kitchen with everything that once made sense. Together, we stepped into the ICU. What I saw stopped more than my breath. It emptied the air from the room. There she was, my wife, pale as snow, the woman I had loved for over 10 years, tied to machines. But she wasn't alone. A man sat at her side, gripping her hand as if she belonged to him, murmuring her name like a prayer. When he lifted his head, recognition struck me. Her coworker. The one she swore was just lunch. The same man I once shook hands with at a holiday party. Our eyes locked. "You're her daughter," he said softly to Emma. "No," I answered, steady and low. "She's mine." They say betrayal creeps in slowly, but this struck like lightning. The next hour blurred into noise. Nurses talking. Emma tugging at my sleeve, whispering if her mother would be okay. Outwardly, I stayed calm. Inside, something shattered. 15 years of shared routines, breakfast together, bedtime stories. I was the dreamer, the planner. She was supposed to be the light. At least, that's what I thought. I remembered the quiet promises made in bed, our baby sleeping between us, her palms pressed to my cheeks as she swore she'd never lie. But the signs had always been there. Eyes that darted away too quickly, dinners that stretched late, laughter that died when I entered the room. And then a month ago, a love note, hidden in Emma's lunchbox. Sweet words, written for someone else. She laughed it off, but I knew better. That night, I sat alone in the garage, staring at the silver plaque on the toolbox she once gave me. To my forever. Forever, I realized, had an expiration date. I stopped grieving. I began watching. I synced her cloud account. Installed invisible software. Quiet, undetectable. And I saw everything: messages, pictures, deleted emails. He called her sunflower. She called him always. That used to be our word. I traced her steps. She wasn't at yoga. She was in room 409 at the Rosewood. I gathered it all, piece by piece. At first, I assumed she was preparing to leave me for him. But then the toxicology results came back. She hadn't collapsed from stress. She was being poisoned, and not by me. I dug deeper. His past unfolded: restraining orders, dead girlfriends, accidental overdoses. A trail of patterns hiding in plain sight. He wasn't just stealing her from me. He was erasing her carefully, slowly, so he could take my daughter instead. Whether she knew or chose to ignore, it no longer mattered. I had the truth. I stayed silent while the hospital conducted more tests. Meanwhile, I secured my ground. I met with a lawyer, moved every asset into a trust for Emma, froze our accounts, updated my will, filed for custody. When she finally woke 3 days later, I was ready. Divorce papers prepared. A restraining order in motion. But I wanted one final act, something undeniable. So, I invited them both to dinner. Her favorite place. Candles, soft music, the spot where we once marked anniversaries. She looked tired. He looked smug. Before the food even came, I slid a folder across the table. "You should look at this." Inside, photos from a hotel, message screenshots, GPS logs, a tax report, and my petition for full custody. He froze. She went pale. "You tried to replace me," I said, voice steady. Then I turned to him. And you tried to erase her. I know what you did. So does the hospital. Tomorrow morning, the police will too. He stuttered, then disappeared before the main course. She stayed, crying into a napkin. The divorce was swift. I won the house, the savings, and full custody. She was left with court fees and supervised visits. He vanished, as men like him always do once the spotlight finds them. She still writes sometimes, letters filled with apologies. I never open them. Emma is healing. She no longer asks for her mother's notes. As for me, I've learned that love without truth is just performance. And I'm done applauding. Betrayal turned out to be my sharpest teacher. It taught me patience, silence, precision. I don't regret my choices. I only regret trusting without proof. But I corrected that, with evidence, with planning, with a final move so exact, so unshakable, it left no room for doubt. Checkmate.